mention of it. Otherwise, I had more or less completely forgotten a large part of it.
Yeah, I know it's very difficult, but I hope you appreciate the need for this. So we talked about the response of the Jewish and Gentile GIs.
Right.
You don't feel that it was out of any need or feeling of concern for for what they saw, that these GIs, whether Jews or non-Jews, participated?
No, I really don't think so. I don't think that because they saw as I saw these piles of bodies when we came in.
Had no effect on them?
I don't know. I know it affected me, but and we got into these when we arrived at Dachau. There were still bodies on the trains, which led into these open cattle cars, and some of the potatoes were still warm, though the bodies were cold when we came in. Of course, the infantry was still there, and they were protecting us as we came in, and then we were going to use that as our medical unit for our own GIs, but once we got in there, we realized we couldn't use it, and so headquarters.
Do you remember seeing any other rabbi? Excuse me. You were seeing any other rabbi?
One other rabbi, a Orthodox rabbi.
Browdy? Max
No,
Browdy?
No, a young fellow. At that time he was young. Tall, thin, but I don't remember his name. Was the only one that I remember seeing in all of the time I was in the service.
And you sure you saw Midafah?
No, I wouldn't say. I don't remember seeing any other rabbi or any other Jewish chaplain in Dachau at all. I don't recall any other one.
But there were several.
I may have been, because we got out, after a while, after we stayed as long as that long period of time, and that was long for a field unit to stay in one place. And then we moved on.
And the Army didn't mind you were working with...
I don't think they ever knew that I worked with somebody else.
But you had to get permission to be able to get out of camp. And
well, all I got permission was from the colonel, and the colonel got, Rosner got permission for me to go with him.
I see.
That was all it was to it. We never got permission from the Army. All I got permission from was the colonel to get out.
Well, he must have known what you were doing.
He knew I was going with the chaplain, that's all. He didn't ask any further questions of whether... I really don't know how Klausner even managed to get me out.
Did you have any contact with the JDC? Do you remember that?
No, I had no contact with them at all.
What about with the Jewish agency?
None of them.
About that?
No.
UNRWA?
No. By the time all of that started, we were out of there. When he worked with UNRWA, I had not met him anymore. We were separated completely.
He couldn't keep you there. There was no way of him...
Well, I don't remember exactly, but I don't think
he needed you
me at that time. What he needed was other type of individual. He didn't need a medical man at that time.
Did you ever see Rabbi Klausner involved with DPs and smoothing the relations between the Army and them?
Well, the only thing I remember is talking with the DPs at the time, telling them to have faith that he would see to it that they got everything that they needed, that he would see to it that they had plenty of food, that they would have medical attention, have all the supplies, a place to live, and everything else. And as I told you, he never said anything that he didn't keep his word on. With the result, once they found that out, they believed him. And very often, by the time we got to another camp, one of the men from a camp we had been to before was there. And when he arrived, there was no problem. They all believed because this other man had already told them that Whatever he says, he's going to deliver.
In other words, he had really established his credibility very early
All
in the game.
very early, and he had done everything for them. And as I said, how he would manage to do all this is unbelievable, because I have no idea. All I remember is supplies coming in to feed hundreds of people, and that certainly wasn't easy to.
Particularly for one man to do.
Yeah, that's right. You couldn't carry it on your back. You had to get men to load the trucks. You had to get the trucks, and always trucks and cars were always at a premium to get.
But yet
he had no trouble.
Despite the shortage,
he
was
no
able
trouble.
to get everything.
He always had it at his disposal, something, some way. And
you got the feeling that he had preferential treatment or something.
well,
almost
no,
like a
I
general?
would say that he had a way of doing things, and he would get it done, and he used ingenuity that I'm sure others didn't have.
Do you remember anything about his printing of newspapers of any sort?
Well, here again, it was the same thing. That's how he printed. I said to you, he printed the lists,
Right.
and he managed to get news into these people of what was going on in this camp or that camp or the other place, and who was there, and the lists would go along, and they would be tacked up and so forth, and they would add to them. People started to come in from the surrounding areas back into the camps instead of staying. Instead of living outside. They had gotten away from the camps, but they were coming back because the food was not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Living conditions were better. They cleaned up the places.
Who cleaned up the places?
That I'm trying to think.
Because that's important.
Yes. He even managed to get people in to clean up the places. He was trying, I remember, to get them to police their own areas and to have better sanitation. And it was very difficult at first.
Why?
Well, I think what they had been used to already was so terrible that when they weren't forced to do anything, they weren't going to do anything at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted somebody else to do it for them.
Right. So, do you remember how exactly?
Well, I remember in one instance he was able to get prisoners, German prisoners, up there to. He managed to get German prisoners from the army to go up and clean up the places.
And was he able to establish a situation whereby the individuals in the camp started taking care of these?
Yes, he did. He, as I told you, he would find someone whom he felt could govern the group and whom everybody else had respect for.
Mm-hmm.
And they would follow. And then he would give each one a little job to do, and they managed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could recall the names of some of these places. As you recall, you asked me this question. I remember the building up on a hill, a yellowish tan building that we first went into, and it was pretty bad, and we went back a couple of weeks later, and the living conditions were much improved. It was clean, it was sanitary again, and it wasn't a bad place to stay. Of course, the overcrowding conditions had been eliminated too, and I think that helped.
What was the state of mind of the rabbi during this period?
Oh, he was just exhilarated. He just felt he was going to...
Did he feel obsessed with the idea of helping?
Well...
Or how would you describe it?
I think it's very difficult. I didn't know him from before, so I can't say that he had changed any. I know him now, and he does the same thing now as he did then.
Mm-hmm.
He makes up his mind to do something, and he just follows through. And he will find someone who will do something here for him, someone who will do something there. That's how he built the new temple he has. He really built it himself in his own way, by going to this one to get this or that or the other thing.
So this was, it seems to be the standard operating procedure on his part.
On his part, right. So that when you ask me, was a special drive? No, I would say, knowing him now, and if I look back, I would say he had the same drive then as he has, or he has the same drive now as he had then.
Mm-hmm.
If he makes up his mind to do something, and it's always different from the rest. He was one of the first here to have art in the temple, to bring it into the temple, to have it for its members. The type of education, adult education, was so different from all the rest. He had men like Padover and people like that in the temple. Now this is the drive, Padover, who was
Yes,
at the
I'm
new
sorry.
school.
Yeah, sure.
At the new school, and who was originally Secretary of State under Roosevelt. And so that he always managed to have people talking in the temple, whereby the temple in itself was well known, only because of his drive to bring in only the better people and the better names.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what he did there. He just drove to get all these things done. But more important is that he always accomplished what he said he was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
He would find a way. And he just did.
Is there anything else that we've not touched upon that you feel that should be told?
No, I don't know of anything else. But as I told you, I will try to get the letters, and I'm fairly certain we must have something. I must have written something about our trip.
Okay, fine.
Travels.
Thank you.